My name is Catzie Vilayphonh. I am one half of the spoken word duo Yellow Rage. So I am a spoken word poet. I'm also a writer, performance artist, and teacher. Life inspires me. I guess, life kind of that was the journey that got me here. I just happened to reply to an ad that was asking for Asian American artists, and I sort of just from there it just kind of blossomed, and it let me see other spoken word poets doing their thing, seeing other Asian American artists doing their thing, and I sort of was like, okay, well, I'm not alone. I know that growing up that there was a void of I guess Asian Americans in general, like role models and people who were sort of telling my story. And I know that there was a lack of this because there was never anybody really growing up, and there was Connie Chung, and it was sort of like the only choice. And it's not really fair when other people get to choose and say, well, I like her, and then you only have Connie Chung because that's the only choice. So, and even if she wasn't really your choice, so it's kind of like, all right, something has to happen. I need to tell my story. And for me, telling my story, the best way for it to happen, it just happened to be through spoken word poetry. But there's something about spoken word poetry that's like a little bit more engaging. That you're not reading, it's not monotone. It's a performance, and I think I'm really attracted to that part because I feel like whenever I'm on stage, that's when I'm most free. And even though like some of the poems I've written, they're like 10 years old. Every time I do them, I remember the place that I was when I was writing them. So like, I get on stage and I just remember all over again like what inspired me to write those lyrics, and the place where I was in time, and I'm able to channel those emotions. The great part about it is when somebody else comes up to me afterwards and say, I felt the same way you felt, or those are exactly the words you said, everything I've always wanted to say but better. So it's like this great feeling, like great, like I'm not just I'm not this selfish person that's like, oh, I'm gonna talk about my experience, because it's a human experience. So like if you talk about being angry about some things, 9 times out of 10 somebody else has felt that same way too. And it's great that my poem transcends race and sex and even generations. When you come out, people want to define you so that they know who your target audience is, and they want to find a way to market you so that you I guess make the most profit, or you reach the right people. But it's like, why can't I just do my poem and have it reach everybody? Like why does it have to be like Asian American women, but also like friends who I've been friends with for a really long time, and they've never come see my poems? And so I think the challenge is, on the one hand, trying to define yourself as an individual, but at the same time not trying to let other people take advantage of that and then try to pigeonhole you and say, well, you're angry Asian American woman voice, so we're gonna try to find like the right people. And it's sort of like, well, why can't anybody just be accessible to my poems? Because that's what I want. That's what I want to happen. It shouldn't be this like elitist thing where like, well, they would benefit the most, so let's show it to them. So I think that has been a challenge for me, is trying to reach as many people as possible. When you are successful, or you have like a popular poem or a popular song or whatever, that you're not just remembered for that one thing, and that people don't consider you a one-hit wonder, or that people, because something is so popular and catchy, and they kind of like hang on to that and pigeonhole you. So like when we first came out, Yellow Rage, the group that I'm in, when we first came out, we had the really angry poems, and then at the time, like angry Asian women, what? That's crazy. What? You guys are so, in your face. What? You guys are cursing. And so people like, that was cool that people got on, like caught onto it, because it was sort of fighting the stereotype of the submissive, quiet Asian American stereotype. But then after a while, people were sort of like, that's all they were after, and they were sort of like, they were like, okay, what other angry things what else are you angry about? And you're like, listen, like I'm a human being. I have other feelings about other things too. So that's why when I, do poems, I like to do a range, because as a person, I'm not always angry all the time. Sometimes I feel like doing a love poem because that's the mood that I'm in, and sometimes I feel like doing the funny poems because sometimes I just, like making people laugh, and I like laughing. It doesn't matter how people remember me as long as they remember me, because at the end of the day, even if people hate on you or they don't disagree with you, if you get them talking, then you've done your job, so it's like, we've had people walk out in the middle of performance, but to me it's like, okay, I made an impact on you because, for the rest of the day, now you're going to remember that because I moved you so much that you felt the need to get up and walk out of it. So it's like, I did my job. So